I was afraid of being left at the bottom of the stairs, so I rushed after Yoichi. When I opened the entrance door, the inside was already lit with electricity. Yoichi stood straight next to the lamp switch, glancing around from the ceiling to the walls. Light is great. I felt calm just by it being bright to the point of not knowing whether these creepy happenings were reality. When I was about to take off my shoes at the foyer, I saw that Yoichi's knee-high boots had already been taken off neatly. She may surprisingly be well-to-do, I thought, but then it struck me. Come to think of it, we haven't even properly introduced ourselves. Hey, it's belated, but I turned toward Yoichi and said, I go by Nagi online. My real name is Yamata Nagito, and I'm a freshman at university this spring. She didn't turn around. She nodded and then said, I'm Yoichi. Isn't that a handle? Wrong. My surname is Mitsurugi. Not that it matters. Mitsurugi Yoichi. She continued being odd. She used her real name online, and then didn't care for her surname. Okay, so that's the thing. If you use your real name online, like if it's a simple name, like a common name, people might think it might just be a handle. So, like for her, it works. People wouldn't think that it would be her actual name if everyone else goes by a handle. I forget which one that was. Was it on the wall of the toilet? However, as if to say that it was a waste of time, she asked that, and so I pointed to the far end of the second floor. That might be 5, maybe 6, I don't remember. Yoichi silently went there. Without hesitating, she opened the door, turned on a light, and peered in. I quietly followed. Right. It looks like the letter bleh, right? It's not a schema, right? I said to Yoichi's back. You know of words such as schema? Hold on, I need to check if I'm pronouncing that right. Cool, I'm saying it right, she replied as if being condescending. Well, I mean, I am an occult maniac. That was a lie. It was information I just received. In a state where you've received a specific set of information, when you see a meaningless figure, your brain follows the information to create a suitable schematic. That is schema in cognitive science. But this is without a doubt, bleh. Even I see it that way. Yoichi said, not caring for my words, as she traced her fingers over the engraving. Well, it wasn't like determining that it wasn't schema, and saw that it wasn't schema solved anything. If anything, it made things worse. If this was truly a deliberately written bleh, then someone wrote that in the house. Or rather, something that was in the house. Bleh was near the bath. Having finished observing bleh, Yoichi went across the hall to the bathroom with the toilet, turned on the light, and opened the door. She placed her face right next to the symbol engraved into the windowsill. When I followed behind Yoichi, I smelled something odd. Truth be told, it didn't bother me since I met Yoichi. But now that I was in an enclosed space with her, it had become clear. Are you wearing some sort of perfume? Yoichi wordlessly shook her head. No, but you, the smell. Then I realized what that smell was. I'd smelled it in rooms during middle school. A sour, nose-curdling smell, as if something was rotting. I totally understand this is a rude thing to ask a girl. I pinched my nose as I asked, when did you last take a bath? And then Yoichi turned around and looked at me quizzically. And then she stared at the ceilings. Okay, so while we have this nice shot close-up of Yoichi, I do want to say something that I do like about Yoshitoshi Abe's art. And that's everyone he draws looks like they're hiding some sort of mental disorder within them. It's just something about the way the facial expressions are and the way like everything is textured and drawn. It feels like everyone has issues that he draws, and that is appealing to me for some reason. I don't know why, it just is. And when she seemed like she was searching through distant memories, I had a bad feeling. You have to think about it? I don't quite remember. Maybe last month? Damn. What the hell? Take a bath! A bath! This is a bathroom. That's not what I mean. Do you not take showers? Clean your hair. What does it have to do with this number going down? I wish she seemed completely bewildered as she asked me. Come on. I'd heard about dirty girls, and I know French royalty were famous for never taking a bath. This is contemporary Japan. Do high school girls that don't take a bath for a month exist? You know, it's quite possible she's not even in high school. It could just be that she just looks young. What do you say lacks reason? She said flatly, and then peered closely at the windowsill again. It is without a mistake. Bleh. And then she turned around and asked, what about bleh? She really had no interest in anything other than the paranormal. I sighed and helplessly guided her. That was on the landing toward the third floor. That was where the middle-aged man I didn't know was standing during the suspected association game Yoichi had made me play earlier. I didn't want to follow her there, so I just gestured over there. Yoichi wordlessly climbed the stairs and then leaned toward the wall. That looks like bleh too, right? However, Yoichi didn't immediately answer, instead taking a mini light from her pocket, shined at the letter bleh, and looked all around it. Something wrong? This is certainly bleh, but odd. What's odd? I was about to ask. Suddenly, Yoichi vomited. She didn't do anything cute like place a hand on her mouth in an effort to hold it back. Rather, standing tall with her arms folded, she boldly vomited, which definitely made me take a step back. Okay, that's unexpected. Used to vomiting, that's how it seemed, and I completely saw it through. Dripping vomit, sparkling intestinal fluid, and the remnants of the orange juice she'd been drinking. What was with her? Doesn't take baths, take vomits out in the open, and loves the occult and wears coats during the spring? Psychotic girl. However, I finally noticed that the psychotic girl did seem to be struggling a bit. Hey, are you alright? I ran to her and began rubbing her back, and she powerlessly nodded, then wiped her mouth. There was vomit on the landing, but she resumed conversing as if nothing had ever happened. I thought it was strange since when you wrote your post. I wonder why the countdown began from bleh. Huh? Normally, countdown should start from 10 or 9. How should I know? I mean, ghosts are scary because you don't know what they're thinking. How would a human like me know something like that began counting down from bleh? Wrong. The paranormal have no rules, but the other side has intentions as befitting of the other side. Yoichi said as she climbed the stairs. I had no choice but to follow. As if to say, there must be a bleh and a bleh somewhere. Yoichi turned on the lights to the third floor and began peering at the walls. Her posture, as she crawled about on all fours, scampering along the walls, was both creepy and comical. Afterwards, Yoichi began mumbling to herself and didn't respond to me, so I gave up and went back to the second floor. I poured water from the sink next to the toilet into a bucket and threw a rag in. Time to clean up vomit! After all, this is my house, and while I couldn't forget the hollow face of the middle-aged man I saw at the family restaurant, I tried not to think about it and clean up the vomit. Ugh. Why does vomit smell so bad? Well, maybe because it's a mix of food, drink, and acid. Stomach acid. It might just be the acidic smell. Somehow it always entices you to vomit too. Yeah, that is the worst part. And it was irritating that the one who vomited seemed to not care at all, as if it was obvious that it would be my job to clean after her. Hey, do you not eat? There's only liquid in this, I said with a bit of a nasty tone. But Yoichi, who'd come back down from the third floor, simply mumbled that there were no bleh or bleh anywhere. I snapped at her totally depressed reaction. I said there was none. She ignored my comment and began looking at the walls on the second floor. Half exasperated, I watched over her as I went down to the second floor with the rag and bucket. Then I looked at the clock and asked her, "Hey, are you alright being out at this hour?" Of course, I was pretty belated given that it was almost 3 a.m. If I were her parents, I'd be beside myself with anger. "I hope you called home before coming out at this hour. I mean, I know it's my fault that this is happening, but parents are always worried. I always thought my parents were annoying when I was at home, but once you go away, you feel gracious for it." However, she wasn't listening to my lecture. I noticed that she was completely immobile, staring at a single point. "What is it?" I asked Yoichi. I asked, but Yoichi didn't care. Didn't move. Rather, she stood still, frozen like a mannequin. I stood behind Yoichi and looked where she was looking. That was where Yoichi had vomited, and was exactly where the middle-aged man was standing, in my imagination that I only knew about. Wait a second. Who are you doing a staring match with? When I placed a hand on her shoulder, she twitched, as if a curse had been lifted, and then she whispered ever so softly, "I see." When she turned around, her face was filled with joy. I could tell by the slight blush creeping onto her pale face that she was excited. "Hey, did you notice?" "What?" But Yoichi didn't respond, instead turning on her heel and heading toward the foyer. Hey, wait! "Let's get out." She quickly put on her deep black boots and then walked straight out the entrance. I hurriedly put on my sneakers and chased after her. I tried not to look inside as I turned off the light, closed the door, and remembered to lock it this time. I stuck close by Yoichi as she staggered down the stairs. When we walked near where the motorcycle was parked inside the garage, Yoichi looked up at the building once more and said, "This building is very interesting. What are you talking about?" "Under the stairs to the third floor, there's a meaningless space." That moment, I felt a chill travel down my spine. I see. The eeriness that I'd felt all along about this house, I finally understood it. Indeed, it always felt like something was odd about this house, and that was the area underneath the stairs, which I could never reach. You couldn't enter the space under the stairs from either the outside or inside of the house. You hear about places that don't open sometimes. This was similar in that we didn't know what was inside. And look at this. Yoichi pointed at the mailbox by the stairs in front of the first floor. My name was written on a piece of paper the size of a business card, and 3 lines had been carved in as if to overwrite my name. It was unmistakable. Three. The countdown continued. Yoichi placed her face almost right onto the engravings and mumbled happily, "This place is real." But I said with a hollow voice, "I'm at my limit." The new apartment was fantastic. The pretty, clean flooring, the new wallpaper, the sterilized unit bath. Wasn't right comparing it to that house where the previous inhabitants' remnants drifted everywhere, but I definitely learned that it wasn't right to skimp on housing expenses. This was even further from the university, but houses were nearby. I could walk to a convenience store. There was plenty of streetlights. This apartment, which was brightly lit even at night, was introduced to me by Karasu. From what I heard, one of Karasu's acquaintances was the landlord for this apartment. She was renting a home, and she was renting a room here too. It annoyed me a bit that the room was simply a warehouse, place to put paranormal cursing equipment apparently for her, but I couldn't complain. Rent pocketed 50,000 yen, but it was 6 tatami 1K with a loft and a unit bath, so it was extremely cheap for the area. It had been 1 week since I looked at that paranormal house with Yoichi. Right, afternoon on a Sunday, on a rare day with no part-time work and no lectures. I opened the window and took in the comfortable breeze as I sprawled out in the empty room. The previous week had passed by quickly. First, I cried to my big sister and borrowed some money, and immediately moved here. I didn't want to enter that house ever again, and it was expensive having to hire people, but it was worth it. Furthermore, this apartment's walls were so thin that you would almost instinctively want to pick up your neighbor's ringing phones, which made it feel like you were among living people. And you could greet people in the hallways, and if you opened the windows you could hear the lackadaisical voice of the bamboo pole merchants. Basically, this place was overflowing with life. For me, that was extremely important. As I'd been drained from mental energy to the extremes, I required the comfort of living amidst people. I never met Yoichi again. That night I gave her a lift to the family restaurant and parted ways. Everything about her was a mystery, other than the fact that she was a high school student, that her real name was Mitsurugi Yoichi. I spoke with her a bit as I escaped to the train station. Never found out what was going on with that house. She didn't try to explain. I wasn't in any hurry to ask. However, I had a strange conviction that something bad was there. Every night I heard something eerie, and I even ate a countdown. Mostly, I believed it because of Yoichi's one phrase, "This place is real," that this was not a place I could deal with. I immediately thought that. If you think about it in that way, she was why I was able to make the decision to place myself in such a peaceful place. But it was true what they say, that when the blade is no longer to your throat, you regain your curiosity. Now that it was all in the past, I was truthfully somewhat curious. What did she notice? What was the countdown? What is Yoichi anyways? It was hard to explain, but she seemed different from just an occult maniac. It wasn't like she was getting a thrill out of coming close to danger, but rather, she seemed to have no instinct telling her to avoid dangerous areas. In other words, it's hard to explain her as anything but someone wanting to die. Whenever she said something, I felt like the world I believed in and lived in was about to crumble apart. Sometimes I would take a peek at Ikai Gabuchi, but Yoichi never appeared in the thread. And of course, no one reacted to the thread I'd started. It had been buried deep to the point where I didn't want to revive it. Krishna descended upon the various threads, but he never touched on my or Yoichi's case. I was real. I wanted to write. I had no means of proving myself, and I myself felt fuzzy about it, so I kept myself to an ordinary life. Indeed, daily life continued. An increased living expense and an abundance of light and heat. My scholarship was insufficient, so I began working part-time at an Italian restaurant near the train station. I wanted to pay back the moving funds that I borrowed from my big sis too, so I started working whenever I had no lectures. My city survival began as I worked myself to exhaustion and flung a tired smile everywhere. A week flew by, and it was that sort of day. My first university lecture in a while had just ended, and I was stuffing my textbooks in my bag. I realized the girl I recognized was staring at me. She was short, but her breasts were big enough to notice through her clothing. Her hair was cut straight like a zashiki warashi, and her face resembled that of a young middle schooler, matching her red-framed glasses. Who's that? I stared right back at her. She cleared her throat once and then came over. She started taking something out of her pocket, then put it back. I saw that it was some sort of paper. She walked to me, standing straight and still, and in the end never took out that piece of paper. She had a bit of a vexed expression as she glared at me, although her babyish face made it lose its bite, then clicked her tongue and then turned away. Hey, I couldn't stop myself from calling out to her. What do you want? Speak up. The straight-haired girl turned back around and said, Idiot. Idiot? Despite being mild-mannered, I wasn't one to stand being insulted by a girl I never met before. Why are you being so rude? What's her name? What grade are you? I asked, but she simply snapped back. Shut up. It's your fault to begin with. And then she pointed her small index finger at me. because of scum like you that these things keep happening like this. Learn your place, fool. Fool? You. After that, she rapidly asked me, do your shoulders ache? Do your ears ring? Are you able to sleep at night? Was she some sort of doctor's apprentice? Did this university even have a medical college? While I was bewildered, the girl finally pulled out the piece of paper from her pocket. She stuck it under my nose. I had no time to take it, as she ran off like a rabbit. By the time I picked it up, she had already left the classroom. The hell was that? No one was left in the classroom by then, so the piece of paper I held. It was like a handmade business card. It just read, Beatnik Research Club President, Kurimoto Shina, and had the location of the Beatnik Research Club situated on this western wing. That night I saw a dream. In my dream, I was still living in that house, the old 3-story mountain cottage by the riverbank. There, I was looking at myself. It was like I'd spiritually departed from my body and was floating in space, and was gazing upon me, living my life. The me down there showed no signs of noticing me, and continued living normally. It seemed I was watching a bit of the past. I was living carefree, as I hadn't learned of the fear of the noises at night. Hey, come on, stop with this house, I wanted to tell him. But as a person just drifting in a dream, there was nothing I could do. All I could do was observe. Eventually I noticed that Yoichi was sitting next to me. The two of us were sitting together on an old sofa I'd pick up after moving. Two of us didn't speak to each other, instead just going on with our lives individually. I was yawning as I watched TV, while she was just quietly reading an old book. It was just a dream, so it was free to make up any situation it wanted. I still thought it was odd. However, I also accepted that if I were to live together with her, neither of us would really interfere with the other. Eventually, the me down there got bored of the TV and proceeded to stretch, wash his face, and brush his teeth. I thought about studying a bit, but instead I just immediately went to sleep. As I observed myself as an outsider, I realized that I was a pretty boring person. I boasted that I would have turned the fortunes of my family's lumber business that was downtrodden, and had departed Shizuoka in opposition of my father and big sister, failed to get into the seminar I wanted, and wandered occult sites. Plus, I hadn't even written a single letter to my mother, who I'd promised to send letters to after coming to Tokyo. Finally, I'd moved into a haunted house because of the low rent, and run into a psychotic girl. I wanted to slap myself. As I sighed and glared, I quickly curled up in my bedroom. Even though Yoichi was there, it seemed I could not see her. And as I turned off the light, Yoichi seemed to notice the light had gone off, as she closed her book and stared off into space. I'd floated down to Yoichi, thinking I'd turn the light on for her. It's about time. I had a bad feeling from Yoichi's words. And then, in the darkness, with only moonlight illumination, I heard that sound. From somewhere, the sound of something being scraped. An ominous melody ringing across the border, connecting this world and the other. As if something was trying to crawl out of a sealed dimension. As I heard that sound, my body slowly froze. It was like watching those supernatural shows on TV, where they set up a camera in rooms that ghosts are rumored to appear. This dream, isn't it bad? I need to wake up as soon as possible. Because if I stay here like this, I would see the something that was engraving numbers into this house. I frantically tried to wake up. I waved my limbs around trying to touch something, but I could not wake myself from the dream. It was like my body had been caught by some black hand seeping out of a different world. Feeling the despair of having been locked into a room with no exit. Within the dream, only my panting echoed. And suddenly, I found myself next to Yoichi. On the old leather sofa, Yoichi and I were embracing each other. As if I were trying to stain both of my palms with Yoichi's body temperature, I played with her body. That was my wish, and yet, it wasn't. I mean, of course I had some interest in girls as a simple 18-year-old boy, But my listing wasn't this twisted. I wasn't the type to release my sexual lust by turning myself into an unseen existence. I was pretty sure I had that much reason in me anyways. However, Yoichi showed no signs of fear. If anything, she was in a state of ecstasy. Her expression was dangerous. I felt my reason making sounds as it broke apart. I licked Yoichi's. Oh, so that's what that was. Yeah, okay, fine. I licked Yoichi's skin. I groped her breast through her clothes, and I lusted over her soft body with the tips of my fingers. I pulled up her long skirt, showing her white thighs. Yoichi's eyes were barely open. Her lips were slightly parted, and I could see her white teeth. Stop. 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 I screamed from within my body, but I couldn't restrain my abnormal extreme lusting. However, the moment I placed the hand on her, I almost screamed. My arms were not ones I'd become accustomed to seeing, but rather were long and thin, if anything like that of an aged man. Those sleeves were gray and worn. I was wearing an old suit. I felt like I faintly smelled some cologne. I stretched out my trembling arms and felt my face, my nose, my lips. And what I felt was hideously not mine. It was definitely that of someone else. And I knew whose it was. Him. That man existing at the edge of my vision, and finally my face tilted against my will. My face pointed toward the window ahead, toward the moonlight. My eyes locked with the man covering Yoichi. That instant, I lost consciousness. Along with incredible trembling, I woke up. It was my new apartment with the abnormally bright lighting from the lamp. To my side was a coffee table with the empty box of the convenience store meal I'd just eaten, and an unfinished bottle of oolong tea. Near my pillow, textbooks of notebooks of her university had been tossed about. There was a cheap curtain between me and the sash to the small veranda, and it swayed a bit from the night breeze coming through a gap in the sash. I breathed deeply. My heart was still pounding. I came home from work, ate a bit, and then had fallen asleep. Fuck off with scaring me. I felt malice towards no one in particular and grabbed the bottle. I gulped down the third or so that was left of the oolong tea. I felt incredibly thirsty. Even the lukewarm oolong tea tasted delicious. When I finished, I felt a bit calmer, and I scratched my hair as I exhaled sharply. Calm down. Just a dream. Just 2 weeks ago. It's not surprising to have some fear still in my heart. That's why I saw that dream after all. That's all. I mumbled to myself in an effort to persuade myself, but my heart didn't stop pounding. I could still feel Yoichi's soft body in my hands. Then I realized that something was ringing in my head. Where the fuck is this going? It was like a phone from next door, like a cell phone in my pocket was still ringing, a quiet but definite warning sound. What's bothering you? I looked around, new white wallpaper surrounding me. There was just a spacious, vacant room that I hadn't been able to fill with furniture. Nothing had changed between before and after I'd slept. However, the bell inside my head kept ringing. What is it? I stood up and looked around the room again. There was nothing out of the ordinary. The after effects of a scary dream were just bothering me, that's all. I was trying to think that when I noticed it. Next to the wall was a ladder leading to a small loft. The lighting for the loft was different, so it was slightly dark there. Just then I felt something cold travel down my spine. Why did I pick a place with a loft? That dark area where it felt like someone might jump out at me from gave me bad thoughts. However, it felt like the warning inside me was directed straight at the loft. I mustered the courage to look up, and the warning sound grew louder. I swallowed once and turned on the light to the loft next to the ladder. Oh, where is this going? I'm really curious how this is going to play out. I placed a foot on the ladder, climbing it one step at a time, and then I willed myself to look into the loft. Of course, there was no one in the loft. The only thing there was a cheap sleeping bag I'd bought instead of a blanket, a number of books that were scattered about. I breathed with relief and was just about to climb back down when I noticed it. On the other side of the sleeping bag, at the furthest wall, I saw something. Wounds. 2 lines had been violently drawn. I screamed a silent scream as I tumbled down from the ladder. I made a loud sound as my knee and shoulder struck the ground, but I didn't care. Somehow I managed to grab my wallet and cell phone. I jumped out the door. Not lines. Those weren't lines. That was... 2. The number 2. I had even moved, but the countdown continued. I jumped into the night city and ran to a convenience store in search of a light. As I ran, I tapped on my cell phone accessing Ikaigabuchi, and then I looked at the forum from end to end. I didn't care if it was Karasu or Sue or Yoichi or anyone. I desperately looked for someone I knew. And then I saw it in a thread titled Mysterious Dimension Ise Jingu a mere 30 minutes ago. Yoichi had posted, ignoring the serious discussion of how to see Yata no Kagami at the Kotai Jingu. I posted there, "Hey Yoichi, help me." The occult maniacs who had their debate interrupted laughed at my spontaneous post, but I ignored them. "Yoichi, you're reading this, aren't you? Talk to me. He's still following me." But of course, Yoichi never answered, and it just angered the Ise Jungu maniacs. Even after reaching the convenience store, I looked around Ikaigabuchi while I was in the parking lot. I tried writing in places that Yoichi might find interesting to contact me immediately. Maybe I'd posted too often because the entire forum rose up in arms calling me a spammer. If I got banned, I'd have trouble contacting her. So I started responding, "No, I'm not a spammer. I'm seriously in trouble." People just coolly responded that was spamming. Eventually, others began calling me wannabe, and I got pissed and even shouted at them, "You scum occult maniacs!" And the flames continued. It was like 100 versus 1, and the flames continued being spat. Right as I was feeling like the world was against me and I was about to slam my phone against the ground. "Are you Nagi?" Someone wrote that. When I looked at the name, I saw it said Krishna. The name was like a miracle descending upon me, and I almost crumbled to the ground. I tried to type a response, but my fingers were trembling to touch. Too much. As I struggled like that, Krishna posted again, and it said, "Come to the place written on the card I gave you this afternoon." It was past 2 a.m. I left my bicycle behind, so I plodded my way to the university on foot. Of course, the front gate was closed, and the security guard looked at me suspiciously. In an effort to escape from that look, I took a wide arc and then went along the fencing toward the line of Zelkova trees on the left. After you walk a bit here, you get to the western wing, which housed the Beatnik Research Club room. Kurimoto Shina, Krishna. I was so careless. I noticed nothing. That the administrator of Ikaigabuchi, Krishna, was a person who attended the same university. And for that baby-faced girl to be Krishna was unimaginable. I went straight to the furthest room and was shocked when I entered. There were still some students inside chatting with each other. I felt a bit exasperated, as though this was some sort of never-night castle. But I guess this was just the way it was for students, and so I felt a bit embarrassed about myself still being afraid of ghosts. My feet felt heavy as I arrived at the Beatnik Research Club on the 3rd floor, and I saw a light on the other side of the smoke glass. I knocked on the door and heard a familiar voice, so I said, "It's Nagi, Yamada Nagito. It's open. Excuse me." When I opened the door, I found myself facing an empty, concrete-walled room of about 10 tatamis. There was a single steel cabinet placed aside against the wall. In the middle was a relatively large work table. There were 4 seats placed around the table, 3 people seated. In the middle was the baby-faced girl who'd given me the business card in my classroom. The red-framed glasses were as odd as usual, but she was wearing what seemed to be a priestess outfit stained in black, had on a tagageta, and sat on a seat. This suited her too well. I had no interest in such types, but I could almost understand why people who liked lolis and people who liked cosplay felt, which was scary. You okay? You Krishna? I asked as the girl made a disdainful face and nodded. I warned you to leave that house immediately. Huh? Kadasu told you nothing? Nothing at all. And then Krishna acutely clicked her tongue and said, "I'll come in." Wow, Kadasu seems so useful now. Not warning. I looked around the room again, and next to the small cult site administrator was a woman who seemed to be in her late 20s and did not seem like a student, wearing simple white Eastern clothing, and a bald, middle-aged man wearing monk attire who had no matter what looked nothing at all like a student. I didn't know how to greet them, so I just stood bewildered at the entrance, and Krishna made a motion with her small chin to sit there. I sat down on the chair that had been prepared for me. But the middle-aged monk stood behind me and grabbed my shoulders with his thick arms. Hey, what's going on? And then Krishna pushed her glasses up and asked, "Why are you trying to see the other side on your own accord?" And then she began lecturing me in a stern voice. "Alright? As long as we don't look, they can't see us either. You can have interest in the occult. It's natural and unavoidable of people to have interest in things that are little understood. Still, the other side has the other side's business. To them, not being able to see does not count as an excuse. Even if you can't see them, humans have enough power to be able to feel them. This is eerie. Then immediately understand that there is something you can't see and pay it due respect." In the face of her stern look, I, the fool, could understand. "So basically, I've been possessed?" I asked tearfully. "At this rate, you're pretty much screwed." Her expression became even sterner and I froze. "Krishna," said a woman in white clothes. She had no makeup on, and held a strangely shaped rosary in her hand. It's already gone a bit inside. "What? What inside? Can you pull it out here?" "I'll try." The two of them finished their strange conversation. "Wait, Krishna, who are these two?" I asked as I tried to escape from the strong monk. "Investigator 3 Kaigabuchi," answered Krishna bluntly. "Investigators? I'll explain later. Just shut up and stay still." It's no use. The host isn't here. I heard a female voice from far away. "You have to go to that house. You're right." The middle-aged man in Krishna's voice also echoed a bit, like a record that was losing some speed. I'd begun to slump down. The monk was strong, but that wasn't the only reason. It was as if I'd never noticed that I was on the verge of toppling over under extreme weight, and as soon as I realized that, my body's senses frantically tried to show me the level of exhaustion I felt. I felt that sort of exhaustion, one that tried to sink me into a bottomless pit. "You can't move? Then don't move," Krishna said in a mysteriously kind voice, and then I lost consciousness.